Ladies, gentlemen, and internet trolls, welcome to episode 7 of Fan Fridays, the show where I give outsiders an inside look into the mind of an MLB All-Star. Have you ever wondered what separates big leaguers from those who don't make it? Stay tuned, I've got the answer. Alright, let's answer some questions from YouTube first. Question number 1, who was your favorite player growing up? And my favorite player growing up was Barry Zito. I was a big fan of the Braves and the A's. I loved watching Glavine, Maddox, and Smoltz. I loved watching Zito, Hudson, and Mulder. Those pitching staffs were awesome. I've been fortunate enough in my career to be part of a couple pitching staffs just like that in Cleveland and now hopefully this year with the Reds. Got a lot of good talent, but yeah, Zito was my guy. I threw curveballs. I don't know. There's just something about him, and I had this A's hat that I wore that he'd signed twice actually because I wore it so long his first signature faded off. So when I would go to spring training with my dad every year, I would get him to sign it again. And the second signature wore off too, and it was just faded. It wasn't green and yellow anymore. It was kind of a greenish tint of white and a yellowish tint of white. But yeah, I was a big A's fan, big Braves fan. Barry Zito was my guy. Question number 2, what is your pregame meal and do you take a nap before the game? I don't have a set pregame meal. I just try to get to my macros and make sure I have enough carbs and protein, my body's properly fueled. Eating well the night before is really big. Leading up to it, a good breakfast. I generally don't try to eat too much right before the game. I'll have a big breakfast and then kind of just a small little meal to fuel up. I don't want to feel bloated before the game. And then I just eat a ton of food after the game. And no, I don't actually take naps very often. They feel great when I do. Definitely not before a game. I want my body primed. I make sure and sleep really well the night before I pitch. So yeah, no nap for me prior to a game. Question number 3, what is your favorite song? That would be Back on Northern Shores by Amon Amarth. I listen to it. It's the last song I listen to before I pitch. Have it in my headphones, listen to it all the time. It's got a slow build up, amazing riff. Just love it. Fell in love with it when I first heard it, and it's been my favorite ever since. And now for some questions from my fans at trevorbauer.com. Alicia Williams asks, if you could have any superpower, what would it be and why? I've thought about this for a long time. There's a lot of really good superpowers that I would love to have. I think at the end of the day, the superhero I identify most with is Iron Man. I just think he's the best. He's a nerd and he just hacks his way into being the superhero and makes a bunch of cool stuff and does a bunch of cool stuff. He can fly, he can fight, and he's got a nerdy best friend that he made himself that's always with him. I would be that if I could. Question number 5, Michael Calabrese says, do you ever throw between innings or stretch? What do you do to keep focus and maintain energy? I do throw between innings sometimes. If it's a really long inning or if it's cold or something like that, I'll go throw. Generally when I throw my plyo ball, my 2-kilogram plyo ball. It's just a little way to keep my arm loose. I do some pivot pickoffs and some roll-ins. Every now and then I'll throw out of the stretch with that plyo ball, but I'm mostly trying to keep my core loose and my arm loose. I'm not trying to put a whole lot of stress, don't throw too hard, stuff like that. I also wear a Mark Pro unit in between innings, so that's really what keeps my arm loose most times. And maintaining focus and energy, I generally like to space out in between innings. I don't like to think about the game at all. I joke around, laugh, have fun with my teammates, whatever the case may be. Now that I'm in the National League, I might go hit. So I don't try to stay focused for 3 hours straight. I think that's really difficult to do. I space out, and then as soon as I cross the white line and I start my routine, I lock back in and get ready for the next inning. That being said, I will go and look at video and do some analysis work in between innings sometimes, and so that kind of helps me stay in the game and stay focused. But yeah, generally speaking, I like to kind of give myself some time to come down mentally before I go back and get up for the next inning. I don't have problems refocusing either. I have a pretty good routine where I step behind the back of the mound and visualize some stuff and hum to myself, and there's some different things. I'll get into that in a future video, I'm sure. But yeah, that's kind of my routine. All right, question number 6. Jackson Muller wonders, what do you think separates the ball players who play professionally from the ones who don't make it further than college ball? And this is a question that a lot of people ask a lot of times. I've heard it described many different ways. I've heard a lot of different answers. I think they're all valid. I think there's a lot of different individuals that make it or don't make it for a lot of different reasons. I will say big leaguers tend to be the ones who can produce results the most consistently. They may not always be the most talented players. Most times they are too. That certainly helps. That goes without saying, I think. But they produce results the most consistently. A lot of times there's really talented players that make it to the minor leagues, that they're high round draft picks, but they just don't produce consistently. And so they can't advance in the levels. It's the guys that can do the same thing consistently over and over and over. So managers and front offices and teams know exactly what they're going to get from that player. And it helps if he's super talented and they know what they're going to get is going to be above average or elite. Those are the guys that generally make it. So be consistent, work hard. All big leaguers work hard in some certain way. They're all talented, but they've all developed talent in other ways as well to augment their natural talent. So there's a lot of different things that go into it, but at the base level, it's all based on the individual and can't really summarize it into one specific thing. Question number 7. Keith Brown asks, as a chef from Northeast Ohio, what foods do you miss from Cleveland and what foods are you loving in Cincinnati? Man. So I'm not really a big foodie. I kind of eat the same things over and over. Once I find one restaurant with a fairly healthy meal, if I go out, I eat there. So I don't really have any like chic foods or hippie foods or hipster foods or whatever the name is from Cleveland. I wasn't really in the scene a whole lot downtown. A steak is a steak, you know. I love the lobster mac at some restaurants I go to, but nothing really like specific to Cleveland. And same thing in Cincinnati. I haven't really been there long enough to find any really good foods that I enjoy. Actually, no, you know what? Come to think of it, I just thought about this. There's a great breakfast spot and they have a yogurt bowl. I don't even know, now I'm blanking on what it's called, but they have a yogurt bowl with granola and some honey and fresh fruit. Premium. All right, that's a lot of your questions, and now I have a question for you. What are your baseball rituals and how do you enjoy the game with friends? Let me know in the comments below. And that's it for today's episode. Drop your questions in the comments below. And if you'd like a shout out in a future video, go on over to trevorbauer.com, sign up for my email list, and submit your question on the homepage. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button, share it with your friends, and help me get to my goal of 100,000 subscribers by the end of 2020. As always, thanks for watching, and I will see you on Tuesday.